Tom, thank you so much for being on the program. You went complete beast mode yesterday on X, talking about how these oral arguments in the Supreme Court played out, and how much of you thought it was a really good day for Donald Trump. I thought so too, as we listened to it live. But I'm no professional. You certainly are a legal professional. Can you explain to me, Tom, your takeaways here?
Well, I'm watching your show. Am I going to get banned from Australia?
Too many memes.
I mean,
we got to put him up.
Mr. Dweeben. Tell if that was the Australian Prime Minister or
this is Mr. Dweeben from yesterday.
No.
Yeah, I mean, listen. This is just a photo that he took at the White House during Easter, during the Easter celebration.
What they need to do, it seems to me, to be fair, but let's presume there's a good faith argument, right? And you're trying to convince people who are skeptical that this is a serious principled issue that can be fairly applied across the board. And you may recall last week's Supreme Court hearing, our oral arguments about the what was the argument about? The issue of extending the laws related to destroying evidence to obstructing an official proceeding, right, to January 6th. And then you hear it again this week. It's all about Trump. Don't worry about anything being expanded because this is so unique. It will never happen again. In fact, never before in American history you had the lawyers say for the Biden regime yesterday that has their president committed a crime while in office. No, he's never committed a crime that implicated his official conduct. Now, that shows you, and it will never happen again because every other president in the future is going to follow the rules, and they'll have attorney generals who will tell them what to do. It kind of highlights the absurdity of it in a way that's dramatic, in the sense it highlights the focus is about Trump. This is about getting Trump, and don't get in our way. And all your other questions, and that's why it's kind of this internal collapse, as they couldn't survive the questioning by even mildly skeptical justices. I mean, these weren't tough questions. These were the sorts of questions that would obviously come up. And look, a president murdering and assassinating an American without due process, that's constitutionally protected and can never be prosecuted. But a president disputing an election must be prosecuted, and right now. And to me, that kind of highlights that it's all politics. And the Supreme Court had a political show yesterday, and we'll see. Hopefully, in the end, they rule the right way. And I'm thinking, Benny, that much of the cases that have been pursued, or most of the cases that have been pursued, are going to die. Certainly the January 6th election case up here, the Fani Willis case, I think it applies similarly to state law. And the other big issue is the documents case in Miami. Did he make these decisions to take documents when he was president of the United States? If then, how could they second guess him under this theory, or prosecute him for it?
You went thermonuclear yesterday on X with this post: Biden regime to Supreme Court today. Obama assassinating in America and is perfectly legal and could never be prosecuted. It's remarkable. This guy also, Dweeben, also defended. He defended like internment of Japanese Americans during FDR.
Yeah. It's
Operation Mongoose.
Don't worry, it's all protected. There's never going to be a Tom Fitton who raises questions about this and wants to prosecute him for similar crimes in the future, because that's all been settled. It's all been settled. It's only Trump that will ever be prosecuted. And the Supreme Court obviously can't buy that and won't buy that. And I'm guessing that you're going to get liberal justices sign on in part to what is to be a historic smackdown of the abusers in the Biden regime, and they're abusers. They're not lawyers. They're not prosecutors. They call themselves lawyers and prosecutors. They're abusers. They're thugs. They're abusing their powers entrusted to them by the American people. They're supposed to be working for us, the taxpayer. And they're misusing their office to deprive Trump of his civil rights under law. Can they be prosecuted now? Doing this case? Because that's their theory of going after folks disputing the election. Oh, your case has failed in court. You're going to jail now. Because those cases should never have been brought. This case should never have been brought. I tell you, in the end, someone like Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, the rest of them, justice prevails, they'll be disbarred. They'll be subject to prosecution and investigation for what they've done to the body politic.
So interesting that you bring this up, Tom, because Jack Smith is somebody who was just bodied at the Supreme Court for his attacks on Bob McDonnell. And he lost 9-0 at the Supreme Court after he went and destroyed the governor of Virginia's political life. And so Jack Smith is used to actually being spanked at the Supreme Court and being humiliated. And the position of the government yesterday was that nobody would ever do that. Was that every prosecutor is this clear-eyed, upstanding, like iconoclast of just law and order. Yet he's defending Jack Smith, who was destroyed, who was ripped in pieces by the Supreme Court. 9-0 Jack Smith lost in his Bob McDonnell case. So the argument of the federal government is like totally specious. It's like it's so insulting, actually, that they're defending Jack Smith of all people up there.
You know, and there's another issue. Is Jack Smith either also, constitutionally valid in terms of his authority? You know, Justice Thomas dared ask that question. God bless Justice Thomas. The Trump people haven't pursued it as aggressively as I would have. But essentially, they hired some lawyer from the street to prosecute someone. He hasn't been vetted by the Senate. You know, U.S. attorneys and attorney generals are supposed to run, and senior officials who confirmed by the Senate, they have the authority to prosecute folks, and people they supervise directly on a day-to-day basis have the authority to prosecute folks. Where does Jack Smith get his authority from? Under their own regulations, he's allowed free reign. So fire him.
So you're saying that you're saying that this has the potential. You're saying that this has the potential to boomerang, and they never think through the end result consequences. I know, obviously, you've laughed a lot on this program about Harry Reid and getting rid of the filibuster for judicial nominees. Right. And hot damn, did that ever like spin around quickly on the Democrats? Then I don't think they've ever like seen the end result here, which is that aren't they the ones interfering in an election now? Like, isn't this all going to flip back around on that?
Well,
isn't this direct election
interference? Then, what do you have to worry about? Who's going to come after you? Speaker Johnson, Jeff Sessions, Bill Barr.
Right.
There's no record that they're ever held accountable. Now, they may lose politically now and again as a result of their misconduct or their overreach, but it's a long ball game to them, and even the short-term victories are worth it to them, and they'll manage any situations in the future. And compare and contrast that with the conservative leadership here in Washington, D.C., or Republican leadership. It's all fear-based decision-making. Oh, if we do this, just imagine what might happen 15 years from now. Well, you don't do something stupid and reckless. On the other hand, if something is right in principle to do, you do it. And in this case, the principal thing to do, and something that Republicans thus far refuse to do, is to shut this down, defund Jack Smith, curtail federal funding to the jurisdictions targeting Trump locally in the state of New York and in Georgia. And, for instance, Alvin Bragg, can you imagine if Alvin Bragg were a Republican? He'd have to rent an apartment in Washington, D.C. to deal with all the congressional oversight. And every person who ever talked to Alvin Bragg about trying to jail a former president would be also down here. Republicans haven't done anything. And it says, yes, to me, They don't care much about what happens to Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but say a bad word about Ukraine. Tucker Carlson says a bad word about Ukraine, and we like make sure we come for him. Make sure that he's destroyed. Like we'll make sure that those people are destroyed forever, right? How dare you? But come for Donald Trump. You think that they're gonna? You think that liberal justices are gonna side?
I think they'll
in favor
I think
of presidential immunity here.
Yeah, I mean, there is an immunity issue that, if they say no to this, they're facing the prospect of empowering folks who want to hold Joe Biden accountable, and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and other former presidents. And it goes, there are other former presidents like Republican George W. Bush. The left wants to jail him. I mean, this is not unusual for the political opponents of a president to want to jail him by alleging illegal actions. Is a president misspending money that he's not authorized to spend? Is that a criminal conspiracy? I don't know. All bets are off if this goes the way Jack Smith is asking for it to go. And thankfully for the Republic, it looks like at least these justices are going to say no.
Yeah, I mean, the question was asked, I think, by Alito, like, so are you in favor of obstruction of justice for Gerald Ford for pardoning Nixon? I mean, that's looked at as one of the best decisions and one of the more healing decisions in our country, but you could absolutely have just straight up charged the guy because there was a criminal investigation into Nixon. And they didn't have an answer. The guy didn't have an answer to any of this stuff other than internment for Americans based on their race is good. Slaughtering of Americans via drone without criminal trial is good. Creating of terrorist organizations in Operation Mongoose, that's awesome. None of that's criminal. But Donald Trump peacefully protesting is criminal.
Right. And so, so your listeners understand it, but because the left says no one's above the law. Of course, we all believe that. The law, though, of the land, the supreme law of the United States of America is the U.S. Constitution. And the Constitution has set up a structure of government that includes 3 separate branches of government. And the executive power resides in the President of the United States. And so when he exercises that executive power, the only practical check on it is kind of restricting him by funding other other legislation that fits in constitutionally with the prerogatives of either the Congress or the judiciary, or obviously impeachment. So, what kind of and this is what protects Obama from exercising his prerogatives as president to assassinate an American abroad because he thinks he's a terrorist conspiring against the United States. That decision, however problematic it might be to many critics, is protected under our structure of government, which of course is designed to protect our liberty. And the left doesn't want to admit to any of this. It's all power politics, and they'll blow up the Constitution. They'll tear it apart. And I think one of the things that we should understand is that Biden has done so much to undermine the presidency thus far by taking away the president's rights and privileges that typically are afforded to presidents, taking those away from Trump. Heck, when he was a president, they were arguing he didn't have the right to fire people. He didn't have the right to protect the border. They never thought Trump had lawful abilities as president to be president.
That's such a great point. I mean, so it kind of underlies my final question for you, Tom, here, because nobody, I think, in their professional life has done more to expose the Clinton family than you. And Donald Trump, when running in 2016, created the most viral moment I think I'll ever see in presidential politics. I can't think of one more viral than you'd be in jail, right? Donald Trump commentary to Hillary Clinton's face about the crimes, many of which Judicial Watch has exposed. Was it a mistake to not prosecute Hillary? Well, I mean, was it a mistake to not just like gloves off, like we're going to go after in a legal way, set up a special counsel? Trump said it. He said he had clearly thought through it. I'm going to put up a special counsel. We're going to investigate you and your crimes. And I think that's part of the reason why Hillary played so nice, actually. Conceded, went to the inauguration. I think that's there was like some politics.
Maybe there was a politically smart thing to do.
But I don't know. Like, your thoughts, would that have prevented what we're seeing here? Because suddenly they would have gotten a bloody nose, right? It would have been like, you hit me, I'll hit you.
Now, unlike the leftists, I don't think someone should go to jail simply because I think they did crimes personally. Now, I think she did crimes, and I think she should have been seriously investigated. And if I were, if I could have been waving a magic wand, I would have, as you suggested, authorized a serious investigation of Hillary Clinton and then decide whether to prosecute based on that. And she was not subject to a serious investigation under the Obama administration. It was an investigation that was just enough to provide the appearance of the fair administration of justice while essentially providing her political cover, while simultaneously working with her literally to try to put Trump in jail for treason.
So it was or was not a mistake?
Oh no, I would have had a criminal investigation of him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ruled that out ultimately. This was just another example of his loser appointees and the deep state pocket vetoing.
That's right.
And not doing what they were supposed to do. The president didn't say the Justice Department can't investigate Hillary. He never said that.
Yeah, I mean,
so they should have done that, and I raised that with them. They didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to do anything. In fact, the folks running the Justice Department at that time were actually protecting her, fighting us in court as we were trying to get what accountability we could get through the FOIA process over these crazy emails, this crazy email misconduct.
That is remarkable. So you're saying that that Jeff Sessions protected Hillary Clinton?
Oh yeah, yeah. And and I hate to say I was right. Well, actually, I don't hate to say it. I kind of like to say it. Anyone who says I hate to say they're right, they're probably lying. But look, they're trying to put Trump in jail for beating Hillary up in New York. It's all about the 2016 election. So that for the deference that Trump gave to her rhetorically and the corrupt cover-up that the Justice Department gave to her, in return, Trump gets a threat of jail. He's being held as a political hostage up there, all to try to make it seem like he stole the election from Hillary. It's never. I mean, they're telling us to get over 2020. They're trying to put this guy in jail for beating Hillary, literally.
The saddest dinner I ever had in my life was a dinner with Ted Cruz, where he described what he would have done as Attorney General, and he was in sincere consideration, and how different the country would have been with a strong Attorney General. I truly, personally believe that may be one of the biggest mistake. Actually, was having a weak Attorney General. Trump needed a very strong bulldog Attorney General. And in a second Trump term, I really hope that somebody like Ted Cruz is considered, who just guy doesn't give a shit, right? And is going to be able to actually deliver.
I mean, what Trump should do is not rely on the Attorney General position when he's elected. He should appoint a special counsel directly as president, direct the Justice Department to provide all necessary support or what other law enforcement agency so chooses, and have the special counsel investigate this national conspiracy involving the Democratic Party and the Biden regime and their allied elected officials in Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, New York, and over their conspiracy to interfere with our elections and deprive Trump and other innocents of their rights under law.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to see that happen, you should support Tom Fitton. You should follow him. He was just absolute banger, just pure gold yesterday during the trial. There's nobody who we wish to follow more during a moment like that than Tom Fitton. Tom Fitton, his organization, Judicial Watch, is the only bulldogs left in Washington, D.C. that hold anybody into account, and they get win after win after win. We'd have to spend the next 20 hours to talk through all of the wins that Judicial Watch has had. Make sure that you support Tom, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that cover image. A sentinel watching over Congress.
That's right.
Look at that. It's a very Marvel.
Overwatch 24/7.
This is very, very Marvel look. This is very Iron Man of you.
The left doesn't like my pictures, and they don't like my politics.
God bless you, Tom. Godspeed.
Hey, thank you, Benny. Appreciate it.